and welcome to the No Taboo Woo Show.
I'm Sandra Logan.
And I'm Gail Chisholm.
If you enjoy being a fly on the wall of deep and meaningful conversations between pals on all things spirituality, healing, and personal empowerment, then you have landed in the right podcast.
Enjoy today's episode.
Hello. How's it going?
All right. It's a Monday.
Monday fun day.
I mean, to be honest, like, I was really looking forward to our time recording today, and then when like emails come in that just really piss you off, and then
That's why I don't open them first thing in the morning. I'm like, I'll look at that after.
It's just so I'm not going to name them on here in case they resolve it, but do you know when I'd hired a van but I changed locations, and then the location I dropped it off at were saying that there was damage, so now they're trying to say that I've caused the damage, and I had a whole hoo-ha when I dropped it off, and it was supposed to be being investigated by their customer care team, and I'd spoken to the original where I picked it up from, and they were like, yeah, it's totally fine, blah blah blah, and now they're trying to pin me for £250, which is the excess on the insurance. Thankfully, I'd obviously taken out the additional insurance cover, but I'm like, surely that would demonstrate to you that I'm an honest soul, and that I'd like, anyways, that's what I was trying, and then I was like, right, so I was trying to phone the place where I picked it up from, because like I think they believed me. I was just trying to get through it, and it was like 30 minutes of dialing and no answer yet, so I was like, I went out and took Hamish for a walk and had with Bob, so that was quite a bit nicer. But do you know when something just pisses, when you're just like, you're setting yourself intentions for the day, and you're like, I'm going to do this, and I've got this coming on and that,
Yeah.
and then something like curveball just comes in your inbox, and you're just like, you've got to be fucking joking.
That was
So
me
hopefully the
yesterday.
cards have got something nice for me.
I know. Did they not check before you left? Did they not do a run round of the van?
Yeah.
So how
I honestly, like, I swear to God, like, there was like nothing happened to that van, and I dropped it off in exactly the same state, and it's I was like, I have done nothing to this, and actually we walked round, and there was some dinks on it, but they were like, that's totally fine. And then part of the problem, I think, is that the place I picked it up from don't seem to have had they don't, well, I'm going to ask them this, bank photos on file, but anyway, when you're just like, I was sort of like, I was journaling last night before I went to, like, I'm trying to do a little bit of journal before I go to sleep. I think I need to switch it to mornings, but I was like lying there and I was like writing, and I was like, right, it's going to be a good week, I'm going to do this because I did some good stuff last week, and then I've got pod on Monday, and when you're just like, yeah, and then like it's how you deal with when curveballs come in, isn't it? It's like when momentum shifts, what do you do? How do you shake it off? And what was more irritating, because I thought I'm not a, like, when I was going to phone the place I picked it up from, I was obviously it had got my heckles up, and I wasn't good, like, I'm not a shout and scream type of person, because I don't really enjoy confrontation at all, but I would be very specific on what I was after. But see, the fact that they were obviously busy in the shop and they're not answering the telephone, and I was like screaming at my phone, answer the fucking phone, and I realised, and then when I was out with Hamish, I thought to myself, I was like, maybe the fact they've not answered is a good thing, because it allows the emotional wave to pass.
Yeah.
Not that, like, I would have, like, as I say, I'm not a shouty argy-bargy type of person, but it's just really frustrating. And then, of course, now I'm like, okay, the things I had wanted to kind of set myself up for this week are now getting kicked a bit down the road. And then on the netball stuff, there's somebody sent in a complaint. I don't know what it is at the moment, right? But this, I mean, I've been doing this netball role for a long time, as you know, Sandra, because I've been trying to get rid of it for a long time.
Pattern
Like,
cycle.
next season, the amount of complaints and like nitpicking, and I'm like, are we just like moving towards like this like complaint culture, and we can't see the other in what's going on? Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's really strange. I feel like, I was like, because we've got a new person on the board, and they were like, is it always like this? And the rest of us who've been around the block were like, no, it's like this year, like this season, I suppose it started in 25. Maybe it's that kind of energetics of the snake here where things are just like closing off. I don't know. It's just really weird at the moment. And then, of course, this. And then you just think, why does it feel like you're having to walk through treacle? And then Bob says to me, he's like, why does it sometimes feel like, when you're like a good, honest person, you're getting shafted?
My God, this
Yeah,
question. Yeah. Been
absolutely.
there.
I know. And I know,
Yeah.
like, obviously, you've got stuff going on. I just think, where's the ease and flow?
And I always like find myself, it's really funny because the Empress came out for me this morning when I did my own card pull. And the other one was learn from the past. I pulled from the animal oracle, and it feels relevant because it was like one of the messages that really spoke to me. It was like, what is the story that you're telling? Is it a story that is of your power and your resilience, or is it a story of victimhood? This was sort of the message of it. And it was really interesting because it made me sort of stop and reflect, because it's like, I think sometimes we can be like in this situation of like, why is this happening to me? And like, we talk a lot about this, about the happening to me and happening for me. But I think that it's really challenging sometimes when you're like hit with these, and they're not always like massive things, but it can be like these little blows that come at you that are almost feeling like they're testing you. Like,
Mm,
and like sometimes it's like, how do I navigate? It's like you're saying, how do I navigate that? And also allow the feelings that come up to be valid. Because like that's the thing, like we've got these emotional waves that we need to go through with anything that we face. And it's like, I feel like there, in some ways we can try and avoid that,
yeah.
avoid going through that. But then at the same time, it's like, well, what is the nugget that I can take away from this? And it's not always about us, right? Like sometimes it's about an environment or the people that we're working with or whatever else. So I think it's like taking a pause to sort of identify like, what is this thing and what is it asking of me, and
Mhm.
what have I learned from the past that I can see from a different perspective and where I am now, so that I'll like adapt myself accordingly, is what I want to say. And it's hard, right? Like I get it, because like I was really feeling that energy yesterday of like just feeling super frustrated, and like that for me is my sign, as you know, as a generator, that it's like I am not in alignment. And
Yeah.
I started off the day feeling like this get up and go. And it was Sunday yesterday, and I was like, I'm really wanting to get some stuff done with the pod. We're moving on to YouTube, as you guys know, and like getting the audios and stuff. And it's all the tech side of things, right? I'm like, right, okay, I'm going to go and find somewhere that I can plug in, because the van has not got the capacity for that. And go and plug in somewhere where I can get my head down and get this stuff done. And the first place I went to, all the seats that had plugs were taken. And I was like, okay. And I walked about, I was like, gave it a good like 10 minutes. And I was like, okay. And like, there's so many factors to take into consideration when you've got a van. It's like, it's where to park, it's the dog, is it dog friendly? Is it got a good enough signal? All of these kind of things. And so I was like, right, okay. And then it's back to the drawing board. Okay, where else is there that I can go? And then the next place didn't have a good signal. And I was sitting there, and it's not, here's the thing, right? It's like, it's not that I can't do it, and it's not that I don't want to do the thing and can do it. I'm capable and I'm willing. But the environment was not conducive to what I was trying to do. And I found myself just getting so frustrated. Like I was sitting in the cafe and I genuinely wanted to just scream, like, like a blood curdling scream,
Yes.
where you're just like, I just need to let out this fucking rage. And it was nothing huge, right? This is just like, it's just little things that are happening, but it's like, it's when it makes something that should feel easy feel hard. And it doesn't need to be that way. So then it's like, okay, this message from this morning is like learning from the past. It's like, well, what is it that's making it hard? It's the environment for me. It's
Yeah.
the van situation. If I had a room where I could go and plug in, and I had, high speed internet access and endless electricity, that wouldn't be a problem for me. I could sit down and get the things that I want to get done every day. So it's like, it's learning from that. And then it's like, well, what do we do differently then going forward? But there's sometimes that there are things that are outside of our control. And I think it's always coming back to like, what can I do in the moment? And what are the lessons that I've already taken that I can move forward with? but it's not always straightforward. And see, when you're in that energy, like I really felt it. It knocked me massively yesterday, and like the rest of the afternoon I just felt completely fucked off. I was just like, honestly, and I don't get like really
No,
grumpy.
you
I
don't.
was
No.
so grumpy. I was
I
so
would say I'm much more of a embrace the frustration type person at times.
oh yeah, I was just not enjoying it.
Yeah. No,
And
of
then it
course.
is, it's like what do you do to shift that
I
energy?
know. I was just thinking, see with your Empress thing there, but so when I was last summer, when I was at we had like a sort of a human design team little away day thing, and actually one of the things that I was like it was suggested based on my design was to spend a bit of time around that sacral energy, but I was
Mm,
also like about like getting angry, like it's okay to be angry because actually
yeah,
like sometimes we're like that, like we're sort of almost conditioned to say that being angry
totally.
isn't a good emotion to have, but actually if you kind of suppress that, it kind of just like your body just holds on to it. So like you were saying about that
Yeah.
kind of like you just wanted to scream, or where I'm like, just answer the fucking phone.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like it's a somatic release of that anger bit, because then it allows you to kind of move through it. And also like anger can be a real action orientated emotion.
Massively. It's like Mars
Mm.
energy. That's what it always gives me, that Mars like action drive. Like
Yeah.
this is going to fuel me to do something
And
different.
it's like from that sacral point, which was then
Yeah.
making me think around like your empress. It's like to me sometimes that sacral is that kind of like your seat of like the feminine, and it's like power forward. It's like proper
Yeah.
maybe warrior energy. But yeah, it's just it's funny, isn't it? Because then you think, oh, maybe I shouldn't be angry, and it's like, how do you get things done? And to me it's like I can communicate my anger to this company
Mm,
around this and express my displeasure, and I can probably be a bit more emotional responding outside of my telephone conversation when they answer the damn phone. um, but I think it's like that embracing that a little bit allows us to probably communicate our needs better, because sometimes we will diminish it and play small, whereas actually that anger energy or that Mars energy will allow you to just be like, no, that's not
mm,
acceptable. And it's like you don't need to be a dickhead to ask for it, but it's so funny, isn't it? Just like what's the kind of energy around at the moment. But I totally feel you. It just like knocks you for six, and then you think, how do I get back into like doing something fun, or like bring my energy back into alignment? But sometimes I feel like when you've had such a that kind of, it's like I was gonna say it's like a come down, but more like it's like a sugar high and then the crash.
mm.
It's like I think when you've been in that anger, because your body, everything's like stuff's is it like cortisol? So it's like coursing through your body, and it's driving you forward. And then there's like when you kind of that's all out, it's like which
Yeah.
also weirdly I then think is why anger can actually, and processing it properly is healthy. Whereas if we sit in that conditioned way of like, oh, it's not ladylike to be angry, or like,
Yeah.
being angry doesn't get you anything, and blah blah blah. And I think then we just store that. So it's yeah, it's a bit strange.
It is. It is.
And
And it
then
feels a lot, is it feels intense in the moment. I
mm,
think that's the thing with anger as well, is like if you've never been like, sort of role models how to actually navigate anger in a healthy way,
yeah,
it feels really uncomfortable because it is so intense. And then it's like,
it
what
is
do I
really
do?
in
Like,
your
where do I
body
put
as
this
well, isn't
energy?
it? It's like
Yeah.
like,
And it's so funny because like the energy on the bottom of the deck after I shuffled, the card that came out is actually flown onto the floor, but this is a Seven of Wands, and it
it
is
feels
like
like
this sort
me
of
just now.
warrior.
That lady's like,
Yeah.
no.
It feels like sort of like mama bear energy, like defending her territory. That's what it's given.
I am not paying that £250.
Yeah, I will not back down.
It's like
Like,
proper defending your principles almost, isn't it?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And hang on, I'll get the card
What
that
came
flew
out?
out.
Oh, so you don't even know yet.
I do know. I do. It
All
was
right.
sitting on my lap and then it knocked off. This is beautiful. I'm using, by the way, the Crystal Magic Tarot today, which I haven't used in ages on here. The card that came out was the beautiful Nine of Cups.
That feels a very different energy to the one
It's
on
so
the bottom.
different. I know.
It's like it's the yin and the yang, it feels like.
Yeah. And like this Nine of Cups to me is like, it's so transformational. Like butterflies symbolize transformation, but the energy of the Nine of Cups is really about wish fulfillment, and it's about moving towards what really lights you up. And it comes after the Eight of Cups of like walking away from something that you thought was going to be fulfilling, and maybe it was at one time, but you've walked away from that, and now it's like eyes are on the prize. And it's keeping this energy of like, what is my wish? What am I heading towards? And keeping that in mind as you sort of move forward. And in that context of like wish fulfillment and things, with the Seven of Wands at the bottom, it's like, what are the boundaries that we need to have in place? How do we protect our own energy when we're actually moving towards what we want? Because what we don't want really is to be stuck in an energy of feeling like you always have to have like to be defending yourself, to be on guard, to, you know, be fighting. But the Nine of Cups is like the guidance that's coming out. It's like keeping that energy in mind as you're moving forward and keeping your boundaries in place, because the Seven of Wands really, it talks about protecting your peace. And this depiction of it is very much like a defensive kind of energy. So whatever like anyone listening to this as well is going through at the moment, you might feel like you have to defend your position, and you know, with energy coming at you and having to maybe set some new boundaries about where it is that you're going and what it is that you want to do. And the boundaries can also be set with ourselves, right? But like, it's interesting the examples that we've given today. Like, before we even spoke about these cards, Gail didn't know what they were. And the stories like that we've experienced over the last couple of days as well, it's like we can get so distracted by the shit that comes at us from the world around us that it's actually taking our eyes off the prize, because our energy becomes so consumed with trying to defend ourselves or trying to like push, push forward. It's like, it's quite a strong energy. Instead of moving into more of this ease and this joy, like this energy of the Nine of Cups feels like such a joyful, light card. And it's like there's so much more freedom and lightness to it. And like the contrast of these two energies is huge. But it's like sometimes we need to find a balance between the both, of like having those boundaries and communicating our truth, and like, something that we're passionate about as well, because the Wands talk about our passions and the things that light us up. So it's having our boundaries around that, but not losing sight of the things that you're heading towards. And like, I definitely needed that, because like after yesterday, and this is the thing, right? It's like the journey to your dreams is not always smooth sailing. Beep confirmation there. But it's not always smooth sailing. Like sometimes there are going to be obstacles to overcome. And I think yesterday, my experience, it was like I was sat there and I was like, oh, what the fuck is the point? And then it becomes like this drama of like, oh, it's so hard to do, right? And yeah, there are going to be times that it's challenging, but it's like in that energy, I'm completely losing sight of even why we're doing this podcast. What is it that we're working towards? And what is the meaning behind it? What is the wish behind it as well? And like, we've put so much love and good energy and intentions into this. I don't want to be losing that over having issues with, trying to do the tech side of things. And I think it's like, it's holding on to this energy and allowing yourself to sort of, feel the feelings around something, but then move forward in a way that feels much lighter and more ease. What comes up for you, Gail, with those cards?
I mean, on a tangible level, it relates to like this thing this morning around those emails coming in, because I feel like obviously and then I'm like, it was funny when the Nine of Cups came, I was like, it's just money, right? Because I was like, I mean, obviously I don't really want to be spending £250 on something that I didn't do. But it's more around the principle, because I feel like I'm being stuck between these two offices, and
Yeah.
it's and like it feels around injustice, and like, and then also I'm like, this is under dispute, so why am I even receiving an invoice? And then
Yeah.
anyway, I can't get into it because that's me spiraling into that energy. But it does make me think around defending on the principles. But the other thing that popped into my head was on Friday when I was quote unquote spiked with my
Yeah. This, by the way, this is a mad one. Yeah. Okay, I'll let you
I
share
have,
your
and
point.
it's really interesting because I have sat there and been like, what does this mean? And actually, weirdly, I did sit there and think, what's the point in just not drinking then, right?
Right, give
So
context
basically,
to.
what happened? I was at a funeral, and it wasn't. It was to support my partner, and we went to the wake after. And the funny thing is normally I was like, oh, get me a sparkling water, right? Because I was driving anyway, notwithstanding the fact that I've been on a no drinking phase at the moment, and I'm like, just don't want to drink, right? And then I was like, do you know what? It's like I was like, no, I said, get me. I said I'll come up to the bar and see what soft drinks they've got. And I saw that I was like, oh, it looks like they've got Peroni Zero. So I said to the bar staff, I said to the lady, I said, is that Peroni Zero that you've got there? And she's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. So she got that, and then Bob had a pint, and I just took the bottle. Now I don't know if you've ever like, I've only had Peroni Zero once, but like the bottle does look actually remarkably like the
Mm,
alcoholic version. So it's not a different color, it's not a different label. It's just like it says Peroni, and then underneath I think it says like zero, like literally that, right?
mhm.
So, and weirdly, I was stood drinking. We were talking to his parents and some other people, and I did remark on it's so funny how like because my one other time I'd had it, I remember thinking it tastes so much like a bottle of beer. Well,
Mm,
it transpires it tasted so much like a bottle of beer because it was a bottle of alcoholic beer. I didn't notice until Bob was like he was gonna or I'm gonna get another drink, and I had finished mine because it was just thankfully just a bottle, not a pint, and I was like, oh, I was just looking at the bottle, and I was thinking, oh, maybe I'll have another one of these, and then I was thinking, this doesn't. I was like, it doesn't say zero, and then I was like on the back, and then I saw it's like you've consumed 1.7 units, and it's 5% alcohol. I was like, oh, I actually, my first thought was, I was like, I actually was, I thought I was going to cry,
oh,
which obviously
bless
if I
you.
did in that setting, it would have been all right because it was like a week where somebody had passed
Mm,
away. I said to Bob, I was like, this isn't alcohol free. And I was like, oh crap. I was first concerned about my streak because
mm.
obviously I was well over 100. I think I'm up to, well, it's been since July, right? So I actually felt like a failure. Like I felt so upset. And Bob's like, don't, he was like, don't get upset about it. And I was like, it's really hard not to, because like, when you've achieved, like you're creating a streak, like I made it to a year on Duolingo yesterday. Like, I mean, I don't have a defined will search, so there's things that I just like, unless it seriously motivates me, I sometimes struggle with it, like to create them, like the habits to do something like that every day. So I was, and then it hit me. So first of all, I was really upset, and then I was thinking, I was like, I'm over the limit. I can't drive. Like, I mean, thankfully we were staying for a second drink, but Bob was like, well, we're gonna have to be here for at least another hour. Um, and he went up to the bar, and the bar person who knew him, and then she was like, "Oh shit, I gave you the wrong drink, didn't I?" And he was like, "Yeah, you did." And she was like, "I'm really sorry." And I was thinking, well, what would you have done? A, thank fuck I'm not like allergic and then dead on the floor. But I was just like, and then and my funny thing and then I was like, well, this is probably partly my fault. I should have checked, right?
Mm,
But Bob said to me, he's like, it's not your fault. Like, it's not, and I was like, that's a fair point. Like, it isn't up to me to check what I've ordered. It wasn't even like I just said, oh, I'll have a Peroni Zero. I asked her and said, do you have
yeah.
Peroni Zero? So it was like, there was a dialogue to make it in her head, and she didn't pay attention. And then I handed it. And then the other thing I was thinking about is like, it's not, it was easy mistake for her to make because the bottles looked so similar, which then goes back to then you think from an industry perspective, it was like, but I was so frustrated. And then I was like, I messaged Sam, and I was like, I've just had a drink. And then I was like, is this fucked my streak up? And then she then she said to me, she said, it wasn't your fault that you were spiked, and you didn't intend on drinking. So I think it's
Mm,
like your intention between not drinking. But I was so upset. And then, like, I literally yesterday, I was just like, what's the point, maybe what's the point in continuing? Not that I've then went off and bought a whole bunch of, like, I didn't go and buy a bottle of wine and drown my sorrows, but
Yeah.
it was like, it's really interesting how, and then I was like, what does this mean? And then I was like, what does this mean, universe? What are you trying to tell me? What's the lesson? But I was like, it was really, so the things of the cards there, is like, and then just really what you said about actually sometimes when the thing we're working to, the path isn't necessarily straightforward. And it's like, like I'm not an alcoholic. It's fine. I've did journal on it, but like I still feel really upset by it that I've consumed alcohol and when I didn't really want to be consuming alcohol. And then I thought to myself, why don't I feel absolutely steaming? Because I've been off booze for like since
Yeah,
July.
I would be thinking
And I
you'd
was
be
like,
feeling the
that's a five
effects of
percent
it.
bottle of alcohol. But maybe
Mm.
because in my head, and then I honestly see driving back, because now interestingly the limits because in Scotland the limits are like negligible, and really there's just no point in, like, I wouldn't even, like, if I was driving I wouldn't bother. But in England, the limits are slightly higher. But like, and then it's like, right, have something to eat, drink some more water, have I been to the toilet? And I was just like, and I just thought this carelessness of this bar person, like, I mean, if I had been stopped by the police and they were like, have you had anything to drink? I'd be like, no, I've had a Peroni Zero, like literally. And then
Yeah.
it's like, I would be over the limit. I mean, that could have like wrecked my fucking life.
Yeah.
Like I need my car for my job. So it's just, I mean, the first thing I went to was like I just felt so disappointed. But then when I went into like the practical stuff, I did get quite annoyed at her. I mean, she did apologise. She didn't apologise to me, but she did say to Bob to pass that on. But I was just like, fuck's sake, man.
It's a lot though, isn't it? And like the things that it brings up, like, and I think it's one thing getting into the why has this happened, and then like
I know, and then it
spiraling
was like
into
over
the
the whole
what is the
weekend,
lesson?
I was like, oh, why has this happened? Maybe I was like, should I just go back on the booze? And I'm like, no, I don't want to.
Mm. I
I
think
just
it's
don't feel like I want to have a drink. And then I was like, this is also a message of just stick to the sparkling water. Here's me enjoying a little foray into like zero alcohol of drinks, which I'd never really had been fussed for, but because I'd
yeah,
had one up in Scotland on like a night, and I was like, oh, because he's just like, oh, it feels like I'm drinking, and I'm not. And I was just like, listen, do not even
yeah,
bother. Pick
yeah,
what you're being received or what you're being given. Has it actually? I was just because it, like, the bottles just look so similar. It just, if it had
yeah.
been obviously different, like a different color label, I
Mm,
probably would have spotted it.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, so angry at myself, but so angry at her. And then like I'm like, what are you trying to tell me, universe?
It's the anger's valid though. That's the
Yeah.
thing is like that. Like I always think with anger, like what Julia Cameron wrote about anger shows us where we've been feel betrayed. And it's like
Oh,
this
okay.
feeling of betrayal. Do you know what I mean?
Mm,
And like with something like that, where you have been so kind to your body and you've been on like, it's been an absolute journey. This
mm.
isn't just like a, just an easy thing to let go. Like it's something that's been a part of your lifestyle
Yeah,
to
like
some
filtered
extent
for
over the
like
last however many years. And
30
so,
years, 30 odd years.
yeah. So when you like think of it like that, the changes that you've made, to you it is a huge shift. It's astronomical and it's meaningful. And I think that that's the thing is that then in those moments, like when somebody does something that is like outside of your control, like she was not
Yeah, it wasn't my
obviously paying
choice. Yeah,
attention, it wasn't
yeah,
your choice, is then it's like that can really feel like a betrayal to us because it's like you fucked up not just my streak, but all of the hard work that I've put into this. And I say fucked it up, right? But when you told me, my first thought was that's on the bartender for a start
yeah.
for making that choice. And yes, there was things that you could have done, like double checked the bottle, made sure with her. But I mean, like you say, you shouldn't have to do that in those moments, right? But then it's also like, okay, what are the feelings that are then coming up for me? like around this. What does it, what am I making it mean about myself? And I think that that's a big one to look at, because sometimes these things, I believe anyway, come around to show us like first how like far we've come on our journey, like the growth, and to actually focus on all of the good work and the hard work that you've done and how much like you've transformed through this journey. Like that's the thing with that Nine of Cups as well. It's like it feels so transformational. It's funny that it's back on the floor again. But it's like, what are we making it mean about us, right? Because it doesn't negate everything that you've done to date. And
No,
it's like,
it was just
what are you
hard.
internalising, eh?
It was so funny though, literally when I've realised, and it was like I must have like looked physically very different when I discovered it, because Bob was like, he was like, don't get upset about it, and I was like, I looked like I was going to cry. I felt like I was going to cry. I had to work hard not to
Mm.
cry.
And that's a hard one as well, isn't it? Is because I think our loved ones care about us so much, they don't want us to be upset, right? They're like, it's okay, like it's no biggie. But a comment like that, it then makes you feel like you can't feel the emotion that you're feeling, right? And that's there, and it needs to be expressed
Yeah.
in some way. And
And
it's
it's
like,
like, yeah, I mean, to be fair, we just have a chat about it, and his dad was, oh, speak of the devil.
speak of the devil, a cup of tea. I'll have one. Thanks, Bob.
Oh, thanks.
Oh,
Not to say no, that he'll actually be on the YouTube one.
now you're famous.
So yeah, it was, and it's gone through my mind. It's been on my mind for the last couple of days, and then so you do realize things are important. But it's just like you get back on the wagon, and I suppose that's the thing. Like I was reflecting on, like Annie Grace, the bit that I did that really helped me reframe my mind, and she
Yeah.
talks about alcohol, because this is about goal setting as well. It's like I haven't ever said I will never have another drink again, because that just feels like an overwhelming goal. I don't even think that is my goal, but it's like I don't want to at the moment.
Yeah.
And then it's like it made me also then you then start thinking, well, why do I feel like I need to have like the zero, because I don't have a compulsion to have like 0% out wine, because I believe it's supposed to be rank, and like the no secco stuff really, like that just is like fizzy grape juice. It's like you could be having apple
May as
cider.
well get a schlur. I love a schlur.
Yeah, it's just nice that it comes in a little bottle. But then this
Yeah.
comes back to starting to think about like the cultural aspects of like alcohol and how it's in our society and things. But she's very clear around like the framing, and actually when you frame stuff, and it's about any goal setting, isn't it? Because if your goal is so rigid, if there is something that happens like that, now that wasn't a slip up on my, I didn't intend to have that, I didn't choose to have that, so it's not like I have consciously gone and bought something, which is
Yeah.
a different driver behind it. But I think when your language around what is it that you're looking to do is maybe gentler, it allows room for humanness, where either mistakes happen by somebody else, or you do something yourself, you make a choice. And like, she talks about it as she's like, I just, I drink whatever I want, whenever I want. I just don't want to at the moment. And
Yeah.
that really resonated with me, because I was like, I just don't want to at the moment. And so it's then makes me think, well, its statement is still true. And it was true on Friday because I didn't want to
Yeah.
try. But it has then made me question around other things, like, why do I feel like, having like a no zero that is me conforming to fit into society, because then I feel it looks like I'm having a beverage in the same way as everybody else is. Thank you. Um, so it's just a bit of a note to self, really. Um, but yeah, it's funny, like, because that's probably been the first time really where, the first time where something like this happened. In fact, the first time I had the zero Peroni, I literally kept looking at the bottle because I couldn't believe something that tasted like a Peroni, like obviously because it is a Peroni brand, but it didn't
Mm.
have alcohol in it.
Yeah.
And maybe that's also because like I don't know if I really, like Bob and I sometimes talk about that, like what does alcohol taste like?
Mm.
Like I think that like the beer tasted the same, but sometimes it's the sort of the edge, the sort of the harshness that's there. It's not there as much, but it did make me laugh though, because I remembered like when I was consuming it, just remarking again how it's so funny how 0% beer just tastes like beer
Yeah.
because it was on Friday.
Oh man.
Yeah. But the Nine of
Oh
Cups has
man.
been a nice card to come out actually, because and really, and what you've said about that, because we do sometimes think our journey towards what we want is smooth sailing, and then when it isn't, because the reality is life isn't like life ebbs and flows, stuff happens, stuff curveballs come
Yeah.
in, and it's like I was, in fact, we were doing this at netball last week, and I was helping them do a bit of a reset, and we were talking about goals and aims for the team. And two of the things I got them to think about was they were breaking into units, but then a process goal and a pressure goal. That's menopause brain. But the pressure goal's really like it's been mulling. I've been thinking about it since last Thursday, and that way is like when the pressure is on, what are you going to do or how are you going to behave, what is going to happen, and that doesn't necessarily mean the pressure when things aren't going your way, but also when things are going your way,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
how do because that can feel really pressurized, and what are you going to do? I mean, obviously it was in a sporting context, but like to me I then was thinking from a life context, when the pressure is on, how do
Hmm.
you respond? Because sometimes we can go into nothingness.
Yeah. Yeah.
When the pressure is on, how do you respond? What would be your pressure goal, Sandra?
Ooh, that's a good one. I saw your video on TikTok that you made
Oh,
about
did
this, and
you?
it did make me reflect. Yeah,
Yeah.
it did make me. I did like and comment it. I hope you're getting notified
I
that I'm
haven't.
there. I'm cheering you on in the TikTok
Oh,
space.
I haven't. I haven't really. I wasn't really on TikTok yesterday, so I haven't seen that yet. But thank you.
But yeah, it's something that I've been reflecting on, and I don't know for sure because, like, I suppose with the whole pressure goal thing, like pressure, there's a scale to it, right? It can be that, like you say, that positive or how we perceive it to be negative. And I suppose it's like where you're at on that scale and also like the kind of setting that you're in and the kind of goal that you've got. Because like I suppose in a teamwork setting like that, like you're running on adrenaline as well. Like and there's that,
Yeah.
all of that and you have cortisol and stuff running through your field and stuff too. But then I was reflecting on like the nervous system as well. And it's like, what's our nervous system comfortable with? And not just comfortable with in terms of like our baseline, but it's like when we go through pressure and cortisol rises in the body, like we have a physical response to that.
Mm.
And then it's like, how are we navigating that? And how do we hold ourselves, I suppose, and regulate ourselves, regulate the nervous system through those changes so that we can hold space for more of whatever it is. So like the pressure, because I was thinking about this in terms of like my own goals. I was thinking about it in terms of like shifting from van life to having a home somewhere more stable. And even like with the podcast, getting out there more, going into YouTube, being seen by more people,
Mm.
having the video aspect of that as well is like that at one point did not feel safe to my nervous system. Like being open and using my voice and speaking my truth did not feel safe to my nervous system. So that was a pressure that would have kept me like in freeze mode. And I think that is interesting. This is like coming back to the learn from the past card that I pulled for myself this morning is like then you're looking back. Sometimes we forget how far we've come, right? Sometimes we forget the growth that we've already made. But it's like looking at that and then it's like, okay, well, what does that next phase of growth look like? And what are the kind of pressures that can come in and how am I going to navigate that and keep my body feeling safe in the process of it? I think especially when you've been through anything like, any kind of trauma and stuff in your life is like there can be a real bodily reaction to things if we've not worked through that and we've not learned the tools that can support us in handling more pressure in different environments and stuff. So it's like, I don't feel like I have a straight answer for you on what does my strategy look like. I think for me, a huge part of it is having the conscious awareness around my fears And sometimes the awareness that we have around the fears that are stopping us from taking on, whether it's more responsibility or taking up more space in the world, or taking up, a role that's going to put us under a different kind of pressure, is looking at that and being like, okay, how can I navigate that?
Yeah, but it's
So,
so funny though, because like if you think about like the work that you were saying there, like the work that we've done around awareness of self, and then the tools that
mm,
we lean on, it's actually because in order to answer the question, you need to understand around that scale of pressure for yourself.
totally.
Also, like the pressure that is you feel from when things are going well. And then
Mm,
also, 'cause sometimes we think of what do you do when we feel that pressure is like negative stuff.
yeah.
It's like or things aren't going your way, or like there's pressure to like, you know, argue the toss around this van rental thing, or like,
Mm,
because you feel that's a bump in the road, so you feel that it's that's dialed up the pressure.
yeah.
Um, and so sometimes that's I think where we always sort of go to it. But like if we think of the context around where some of this came was the team have been and in any sort of team sport, momentum can shift quite quickly.
Mm,
If we think that, so netball's a game of 60 minutes, 4 quarters, 60 minutes, sorry, 4 quarters, 15, 60 minutes. But like if you think of like your life, like you could extend that out. Your life doesn't, there are momentum shifts in your life. And
yeah.
it's like, what do you do when the momentum is shifting? And that can feel pressure, whether that momentum is shifting because you're winning. How do you keep going? Do you, because actually sometimes people will be like, oh, well, I just take off the foot off the gas, but then that potentially could allow momentum to shift the other way. So it was coming at it, and the process goal was to do with because it's a team sport, and they'd set these sort of objectives for like their attack and their defense, and they've got an overall little aim for the rest of the season. But it's like, well, how do we come together as a team
Mm-hmm.
to deliver on these goals? And often that's around your ways of working, your communication, and then there's like this sort of pressure thing that comes on. But it's a really interesting way to think about it because I think the default, and I saw it with them having the conversation, is the pressure of you're losing, something's not going your way, and the decisions that we make, because that's maybe where people feel the most pressure. But actually I think sometimes it's like it's when things are going your way, we ignore the
Yeah.
pressure. We don't see it as pressure because we see pressure being from a negative connotation. But
Yeah.
and it's just the thing as well when you start looking at your objectives is it allows you to interrupt your thinking and be more conscious around what's going on because you're like you can then identify what you're feeling as pressure,
Yeah.
what's underlying that, which might be some of your fears are arising, and then what tools do you have? But like, I suppose I know you quite well. And I think you've got a lot of tools that you can lean on around like when the pressure is on.
Yeah. Totally.
And I think it's like when we live more of like this sort of life where we're trying to be, we've got our dream life that we've got, and we don't want it to just be on a vision board on our Pinterest somewhere. We want to live that life.
Yeah. Yeah.
That can feel quite a lot of pressure. And sometimes there's that thing of where that adage where people will go, oh, it's like, your love life might be going well, but your career is shit. And then like your home life, so it's like there's this sort of fallacy around like none of your life sectors are all going well at the same time.
Yeah. And trying to find that balance across them all. Yeah.
Interesting conversation, but like, I mean, I was sort of thinking like, when the pressure is on, like, what do I do? Where do I go?
And I think it's like also like noticing where there's like instinctive intuition kicking in and where there's fear kicking in and which one's the driver in
Yeah.
that seat. I think especially like when there's pressure in the context of like that this is a now pressure. So it's not like something that's drawn out over time. Do you know what I mean? When it's like intensified, is like what is the driving force for me here? What's the thing that I'm allowing to like move me forward? Is it that I'm like trusting the intuition and the instinct that's telling me to act in this way and do this thing, or is it the fear response that's being like potentially like maybe pull back or whatever it is like in each situation? Is an interesting one for sure.
What's the
And
first thing that you go to? Like, so like if you were feeling like what's the thing that you probably consistently lean on, like where you start to feel pressure creeping in?
to be honest, I feel like I notice like a lot of pressure like in different areas of life. Um, and I suppose like part of it is like, what is the pressure that I'm putting on myself in my own mind for a start? Like, and that's where things like meditation and journaling and stuff, like the self-awareness helps, because it's like, I think that sometimes there's pressure in situations and environments, but sometimes it is actually internal pressure. Like we're putting unnecessary pressure on ourselves with certain things. So having the awareness and also like getting clarity around things, like where is this pressure taking me? And like what are the strengths that I have that can help me navigate through it? Because we often underestimate ourselves. I think that that's a huge factor, like when it comes to pressure, is like that we can underestimate ourselves and like how to navigate things. And there can be also like, I think that the fear response can be to avoid that and to move away from it. So being able to get clear and notice what's coming up for you, like around the pressure, really helps. So those are like two things, like just the awareness and keeping your mind monkeys calm, like in that situation, and coming back to my body. And I think like also being clear on like where it is that you're going, what's the outcome and what's the feeling that you're actually moving towards. And something like for me is that there's lots of different things coming up, which is why I'm not giving a very clear answer here, because I'm
But
like,
it's
there's
like,
so
I
many
mean, it's
different
such a
areas of
broad
life.
subject.
It's
But
so
I was
broad
just,
and there's so many
yeah, I was
different
just,
areas of life that this can apply to. But
yeah.
one of the things that's like prominent for me is I'm thinking about like business side of things, and you know, like the pressures that come with that. And like sometimes we'll like set these expectations for ourselves, or you know, there's lots of different, I think as an entrepreneur, not I think, I know as an entrepreneur, like when you're doing things on your own, you're spinning a lot of plates at the one time. And that I have found personally on my journey to feel like a lot of pressure, to be the marketer, to be the website designer, to be the admin and all the rest of it, as well as, you know, the healer, the podcaster, the whatever else. So like strategy has helped me with that, and just having some routines and having some like processes that can help me to do certain things. And also like the reassurance that like I've got this, like I can handle it. Like you're never given anything that you can't handle. And it's all like in how you respond to it and how you navigate it. So that's something that has helped me, is getting things down on paper and actually being like, okay, so if this is feeling overwhelming, because I've definitely experienced that in business, is like the overwhelming of all the different things and feeling like I can't be at the top of my game in every different area, because also you're learning as you go. So you're never feeling like I'm an expert in this area or I'm an expert in that area. So it's like looking at, right, okay, well, what are the things that I want to achieve and what are the things that are going to help me get there? And I feel like it's been such a learning process, like to actually just navigate all of that, because it is such a lot. And I think that also, like coming back to the pressure thing, like a lot of that is internal pressure. Like there's nobody in my external environment that's setting expectations for me. When it comes to the business that I do, it's for myself and, you know, taking care of my own needs and generating income and all of that kind of stuff. So that's pressure that I internalize. And then it's like, well, how do I navigate that? And it's coming back to, what are the practical steps that I can take? What are the actions that are going to move me towards where it is that I want to go? So that's just an example, but I think that's why I'm like, I feel like I'm dancing around this as we're even talking about it, but there are so many different areas that it could apply to.
Sometimes it is, you just need to like ride the wave, and rather than like resist it, it's like go with it, and
Yeah.
you know, trust that the tools that you have, lean on your intuition, and it'll depend on what area of life it is that you're looking at and what's the goal. But I did enjoy the sort of the full circle of coming back to the Nine of Cups.
Yeah. I'm curious before we go though, what
Mhm.
is your answer for that, to that
I'm like,
question?
no, no,
Let's
no.
not talk about
Um,
my pressure.
So
how do you navigate it?
like I definitely like to talk it out, which
Mm,
we've talked about before in terms of like my human design. I mean, I'm constantly thinking. So even though I enjoy talking it out with a third party, sometimes I have like that dialogue in my head where I talk it out. Journaling will help with that because it'll allow me to just sort of like, sometimes I just need to work through the sense of pressure, what the emotion is that's driving, like, to
mm,
actually then um take action. And it's like to keep, sometimes like it's the pressure when things are going well, or like to keep going on the momentum, and
yeah,
recognize that sometimes, certainly with some of the stuff in my business, it's a slow progress.
yeah,
And then it's like you might find that you'll get a little bit of momentum, and then it feels like two steps forward, one step back. But that's going back to your point around like the strategy, and I think understanding where it is that you're looking to go will allow you to navigate the pressure of the particular circumstance that's arising.
mm,
Um, I think for me, the thing that I've probably shied away from a lot more is the pressure around success,
mm.
which
It's
is
so
quite
funny you
weird.
say that because when you were talking earlier, it was something that came up for me. And I was thinking about this fear of success versus fear of failure. Because often we think that we're afraid of failing, but actually it's being afraid of success because it's almost like we've had this glass ceiling to what we can reach. And it's like, how do we push through that? Because that's where the unknown is. And that's where it's like, okay, we don't know what a certain level of success looks like, and it's whatever success means to everybody
Yeah,
individually, right? But that it's interesting that you're saying that though, because that is your self theme that
is,
in human
yeah, the
design
universal
is
projector. I
yeah.
think like I feel like I would call it like all the sort of coaches and things I've worked with, and I've really shared this with you, and really why is like also like why I probably named my Substack what I did is I've been like I've felt like I've been in my own way. Like I have these dreams of what I would like my life to look like, or um like the legacy I want to leave, or like also like I want to be seen as like I feel like I'd like to have lived a remarkable life, and um obviously that some of these words have scales of, and they're very personal interpretations. um and it's like I've done, because then you think, well, what's stopping you? Like one of my things around like the celebrant work, what's stopping me from getting more work? I like to think I'm a really good celebrant. I hold space. I write good ceremonies. I deliver good ceremonies. Um, it's like I've used the word self promotion. It's like what's stopping me a bit is because I'm not getting out there and sharing what it is I do. Now, that doesn't necessarily have to be chapping on doors for celebrants. It can be on social media, it can be talking about things, it can be the death consciousness that we've chatted about on previous episodes.
Yeah.
And so it's like, well, why, if the blockage is something within myself, that also means it's within my control. And maybe it is about, so then it is, you start thinking, well, I've got all these dreams and hopes around things that I would love to be and do in my life, and a lot of it feels like, it's like if you're just an impartial observer looking, we'd be like, well, a lot of that feels like, why don't you just go ahead and do some of that?
Yeah.
And so it does become a bit like, is it a fear of success? I mean, there's a bit of fear of success. I think there's a lot underlying bit around fear of rejection,
Mm,
and there's that people pleasing tendencies. But it's like it's understanding yourself more, and understanding where it is, what is your dream life, how do you want to feel in that, will help identify when you're feeling pressure. But I think a lot of it is, it's almost like the pressure to succeed, and it's like I'm getting there, but then it's like, why don't I fully to commit and take it over? So it's like there's obviously a pressure there for me that maybe it's also I haven't identified it as pressure before. It's like um and sometimes it's like, what, I've got autonomy over my day. I can choose what I invest my
mm,
time in. Um, so, and some of it's external help around like going, okay, well, please help me talk through what this is. And sometimes it's feel the fear and do it anyway.
yeah. I was going to
So
ask,
yeah,
like how does the pressure aspect of all that present itself to you?
I agree. I think with you around, there's quite a bit where I'll feel it internally. Ironically, I feel like my body gave me a big bitch slap around pressure and like not putting myself first when I had when I went through all my cancer treatment. I think that was a big body saying like I think I just didn't process things very well. I don't think um, before that kind of like storing stuff in my body, like not really riding the wave. I think listening to a lot of like conditioned responses or things that I've been told about myself, like especially some of my stuff in my past career around, you know, you get your annual reviews and objectives and da da da, and it's like you're wanting to get somewhere, but then you're dependent on somebody's perspective of you and your capabilities. So I think I can feel it in my body. I definitely feel around things like weirdly just reflecting on like starting coaching at a new club and things. I feel like pressure to perform or get results and like I coach a
Okay,
bit
yeah.
differently maybe and it's like you only get one opportunity to make a first impression. So it's like what do you
Yeah.
set your stall out as and how do you perform and what do you do and I'm probably quite reflect. I'm very reflective. I will take stuff away. I think about things a lot, but um, yeah, probably a lot. This is where weirdly, and it's another full circle moment coming back to like the sacral and allowing the anger, and that's so it's about recognizing what's going on in my body and allowing it to come out, and so that shifting of it I think is
Mm,
definitely very helpful because it allows like you to then get perspective on the other side. Um,
yeah. I think
I do,
also,
and I suppose just to finish off that point, like I'm maybe a bit too forgiving on seeing the other. So like the example around with the bar person that gave me the beer, like I'm sitting there going, well, maybe I should have checked this more, or I'm like almost forgiving someone else for their own mistake.
mm,
Um, and there's an element of actually that's me probably trying to be considerate and see the other as me and so on and so forth, but actually it's not to the expense of legitimizing my anger.
yeah.
Like I was within my right to be really angry and upset at what had happened because it
Mm,
wasn't a choice that I'd made, and actually the consequences could have been significant had I not noticed.
yeah.
um but maybe other people would be like, I wouldn't have been so kind to them and blah blah blah. And I'm like, well, I suppose it was an easy mistake to make. They didn't know that I was blah blah blah. Um, but yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? Because there's so many different factors, and I think we're all really individual,
Mm,
and and that's maybe something that's important to just sort of think. And you've touched on that around like the strategy, thinking about where are you going, because what pressure feels like to me will be different to you, to different to
yeah.
the listeners. Um, and so some of it you just start with like getting to know yourself better.
Yeah. Yeah. When you were talking about work there that sparked this was like, what is the pressure of expectation from
Oh yeah.
others? Like that came up for me, and it's like, where are we putting ourselves under pressure to meet the
Of
expectations of other
course.
people? And
Mm-hmm.
what's a dream that's ours and actually is somebody else's? And what are we internalizing that is actually making us unwell? Like that's not feeling good in our body because we're trying
I
to
had
meet
a
that expectation.
yeah. I had a session with Robin, who I met on my playing big course, and she was practicing something on me, and it was funny. Like I was talking to her about some of like the big stuff that's like on your vision board around like, oh, I wish that I could be blah blah blah, or like Robin, she was saying, oh, you when you talk about something, your passion really comes across. It's clear that it's like part of integral to who you are, and like and it just made me realize where you just think actually the more that you spend time doing the things or even like in the environments that light you up and bring you joy, um because it's like that's, well, although weirdly I still come back to like the pressure of fulfilling your dreams feels far more
Yeah.
than the pressure of like, oh, things aren't necessarily going your way, or like, blah blah blah, because like those things you feel are quite sort of tight. It's just, oh, it's just another thing, I'll just do that and I'll get over that, and oh, this is a shit email, but I'll reply to them and da da da. But then it's like, well, what are the steps you're taking, like the pressure of like those big dreams, the ones that you maybe don't share with lots of people.
And that is huge, because the value that we attach to our own dreams is so significant. Like it feels like a big thing for us to carry energetically. And also the responsibility of being like, I'm the only one that can bring this to life. Like, if I don't take the action, if I don't become the person that fulfills this dream, then it's not going to come into being, because everybody else has got their own dreams to focus on. And not to say that, you're not working towards dreams in teams or in partnership or whatever else, like whatever area of life. There are people that support us on the journey there. You don't need to do it all on your own. But I feel that, like, the pressure of that dream, because like when we can visualize something and we hold it so close to our hearts, like it's a heart-led dream, something that doesn't necessarily make sense to the outside world or, the expectations of other people, is then it's like the pressure that we put on ourselves to really make that a reality for ourselves. And it's knowing like that you have to show up for yourself every day in some capacity.
Yeah. And sometimes ask for help, right? Because like there's things
Yeah.
where like I suppose I'm probably quite private on that sense of like, because I think it's then the self-doubt creeps in,
Mm,
and that's the bit around being in my own way. But it's funny, isn't it, where you're like, what's that secret thing that you're like, oh, wouldn't it be amazing, like the thing that you would really really want.
and then what are you wasting? It's not wasting, right? But what are you wasting your time on in the meantime,
I
instead
nearly
of
had
taking
that.
the action that you really want
Yeah.
to take in the direction that you
um
really want to go?
I know, just on that point before we finish up, I don't know why it popped into my head last night. But I was reflecting on, and we've touched a little on this, we're both having a big birthday this year. Mine is a decade a lot more than yours. However, I just had it last night before I sort of was like getting ready for bed. I just had this wave of like this concept of like time, and like it was like how on one hand I was like I'm still like I can't believe like I'm going to be 50. Part of that's also because I think sometimes we stop aging in our heads, right, and we still think of ourselves as
Yeah.
this invincible 20 something.
Yeah.
But I just had this real sense of like, on one hand, I think it was because I was trying to clear out photos off my iPhone, and like I was looking back on
Same.
things where, in fact, actually, I think I still have photos in there from 2016, which was the year I turned 40. On one hand, I looked at some of those photos and I was like, that was a lifetime ago. Or when you see Facebook memories come up, I think, who was that person for the start of? But then I'm like, on one hand, that was a lifetime ago, but on another, it felt like yesterday. And
Yeah.
I'm like, time is just this weird concept. And actually, like, I sat there and I just thought to myself, maybe this is from a pressure perspective. Like, I was like, time's running out. Like, I feel that pressure from time to time. I've got that gate in my human design. I think you've
Mm.
got that as well in the
Yeah, I
spleen.
feel that a lot.
And so there's days where I just was like, fucking hell, like, time's running out. And then
Mm.
it's like, are you going to let this fear of success or the pressure around succeeding going to stop you? At what point is it like you just be like, no more?
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I felt like crying last night. I was like, oh my
Mm.
God. I remember thinking when I was turning 40, I'm like, I'm probably like halfway through my life. Although now, given what's happened, I might not be. So I'm a lot more mindful of time passing. But I was thinking, I'm going to be 50 this year. The likelihood of getting to 100, very slim, which is
Mm.
fair enough. Like, I don't have an issue about that, right? I don't want listeners to be like, oh, but you might, and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, it's not about that. But I'm like, a decade has passed. I would say I'm closer to those bigger dreams than I was at 40.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'm clearer about, or maybe I've admitted those bigger dreams. But it's just like, where the fuck does the time go, Sandra?
Wish I could tell you. I wish I could tell you. Do you know what's so weird? Well, firstly, I really liked how you leaned in, and I felt like, do you know, like when you had a sleepover when you were a kid? And you had a
Yeah.
sleepover with your pals, and you were trying not to make a lot of noise in the house, and you're like, you're sharing all your secrets
Tell
about
anyone.
your hopes and your dreams and all the boys you want to kiss. Like, that's what it felt like. That was so nice when
Oh,
you like leaned in to tell us. Oh, I love that. But what's really mad is I literally said out loud yesterday, I'm going to be 40 in 2 months. Said it out loud, and I was like, what the fuck? Like, I don't know if it's like, well, we're connected energetically anyway, right? 'Cause we're soul fam, but it's like, I was just sitting there and I was like, it hit me too. And it's mad that it was yesterday as well, because I was like, this, I'm going to be 40 in 2 months. And I don't know how that happened. It's funny when you said about 2016, because that was one of the most challenging years of my life. Like, 2016 for me was a fucker. It really put me through the ringer, physically, health wise, family wise, health wise. Change, moving from Australia back to the UK, like, it was just a whole thing. It was a lot. And like, when you said that there, it's been like 10 years. Of course it's been 10 years. It's 2026, Sandra, for fuck's sake. But in my head, I'm like, what?
I
Because I'm
know.
like, that is crazy. And it's funny, my dad texted me actually, and we were yesterday, like, there was something about Australia came up. And I even said to him, I said, God, it seems like a lifetime ago. But then at the same time, I remember the memories so vividly. And it's like, but then when you see the gap between who you were then, like if you were to meet that version of yourself face to face, if you were to sit with them right now, you would see like huge growth. Like,
Mm.
and probably, like, I look back, I probably end up crying at this, with so much more love and compassion for that version of me. She was on struggle bus. And I'm still on struggle bus now and again, but it's a different way because there's so much more conscious awareness and love around it. Um, and I think going through all of the challenges that you go through is like, it gives you so much more clarity on what actually matters and what's really meaningful. And like, it's funny with that, the word pressure, right? Because you think to yourself, like, what is worth me putting myself under pressure for? Like, what's really worth that? Like,
Your
and what,
dreams.
like that word success, your dreams, yeah. And that word success, like, what does success actually look like? And how does it feel? And I feel like that changes, like it evolves. Like, even me sitting here now, what my dreams look like are even a bit different to what they were 2, 3 years ago. Like, things evolve, don't they? And things
Mm.
sort of shift a little. And it doesn't mean that, that the essence of what I wanted to feel then is different to now. It's like the evolution of ourselves and our dreams and
I
who
think
we
for me,
become to
like,
get there.
so I think, like, and we've talked about it, I don't know if we've talked about it on the pod or not, but like, I know as a teen, like some of the dreams that I have today are probably very similar, but they're more like the big ones around. Like, I remember sitting there, mostly ironically, because I remember being a teenager thinking I just want to be successful, which is weird given I knew nothing about human design then. But I had this big calling around, like, I just wanted to be successful.
And did
But
you have
no,
an idea then of what that looked like? Did you have a vision of
no,
success in your head as a teen? No.
no. So I think I probably jumped on a few bandwagons of like, because like being inspired by other people and blah blah blah, and nobody really ever took the time to stop and think and support me or help me figure out what did that actually mean,
Yeah.
or and like weirdly, like that's something that that's something that has a pin in it just now around how I can help other people based on, like, I suppose the things that I know now, and like actually have been able to put meat on the bones around, well, what does success look like? But I think some of the stuff that sits in there on those like big, what some people might be like, that's just pie in the sky. I've always wanted to be like, I would like loved reading and writing. I would have loved to have been a writer. I would love
Mm.
to be a writer.
I was going to
I do
say
right
this
now. I
the
have to admit to
vibe.
that. I am a writer, but that is something that I would have said if I'd asked my teenage self or my 8-year-old self, that would be something there. And I think around legacy and remarkable, like, so there's terms that are language that resonates to me today that I know would have resonated back then. So things like success, legacy, remarkable, these types of things. What it's about taking the time to understand, well, what is that in, or what is that mean, and how does that look like, or like the random day in May, what are you doing, like, you know. And then maybe that's the journey, is like some of what I've been on, is to figure some of that out, but and also realizing that it's never too late.
Yeah.
Well, it might be if I died tomorrow, but like I'd like to think I've done some cool shit in my
You've
life.
done some
So,
really cool shit.
but do you know where you're just like, it's funny, I think, especially when we hit birthdays with a zero. It's like it just gives us an opportunity, because then you're like, that's another decade. And
Mm,
that's sort of a point where you think, but you don't need a decade to affect big change in your life. I mean, you could probably do it in like a day, really, if you wanted to like
yeah.
completely overhaul your life. I mean, you can
If you
take
were just
radical
really
action.
decisive.
Yeah, you could take radical action. You could send that resignation letter in that you've been. I remember I wrote a resignation letter for a job, and then like, because I just felt it empowered me. I felt so like, yeah, and then I didn't send it in for like about 6 months or something. But I was like, I had made a decision, and it
Yeah.
helped me kind of like move that forward. But like I suppose if you really want to, you can really take radical action to fundamentally change your life in 24 hours.
Mm.
But
And
for
that
me,
feels
I'm
like a lot of power, but also a lot of responsibility. Because, and this is the thing, I think that's why we don't, as humans, often we don't make those like massive life choices overnight. We don't say, right, okay, I'm going to change this tomorrow. I'm just going to wipe the slate clean and start over. Like, we don't often do that. It's normally like a gradual build up because, well, it's a shitload to handle in the moment, but it's like, with great power comes great responsibility.
yeah.
It's like, if I make these decisions for my life, then I am the one that will be working with the consequences of what that brings. And so, yeah, I totally get you. It's like, it's a lot in it. And I think it's also recognizing that, like, coming back to what I was saying about the growth thing, is like, we forget how far we've come and all of the incremental steps that we've taken that are gradually getting us closer to being the person who has that life and those big dreams that we envision for ourselves. Like, because it happens gradually, we don't always recognise just how big that shift is. That's why, like, sometimes writing a letter, like back to you 10 years ago, or from that version of yourself to now, and like having that sort of reflection of that version of you to now, and all of the ways that you've grown and all of the things that you've achieved and all of the things that you're proud of, and also the lessons that you've learned, like the shit that you've been through that you've overcome, because all of that has been like, shaping you into who you are today, and we underestimate that so much. And in that, we also underestimate ourselves and what we're capable of. So I think that's a great exercise, just to even like write down, all of the things, and just give yourself a wake up call. Be like, man, actually, pretty fucking cool.
Nice nine
And
of
I can
cups
make the
in.
dream happen. The 9 of Cups. I'm going to grab it off the floor again.
Oh, what a rich conversation today.
It's
I
been
love that the Nine of
wonderful.
Cups came out today.
Yeah, it's a beauty. It's absolutely beauty. And it's like allowing yourself to like let your dreams fly. Let your dreams fly. Fly. Beautiful.
Oh, what a great conversation today,
It's
Sandra.
been wonderful. I've enjoyed it. We'd set the intention to do a shorter episode today so that I could crack on with some other work with the charge I've got on my laptop. But actually, I just really enjoyed the conversation. And it's like,
Yeah.
just don't want to hang up. It's like that thing. No, you hang up. No, you hang up. No, I don't know. We'll just chat for 10 more minutes. Okay.
Oh, if only, if
I know.
only. No, it's been a really good episode. Hopefully, some good insights for our listeners. I'd love to hear
Yeah,
anything that's resonating, and even to share, what do you do when you feel like the pressure's on, or what's your strategy for that, and or what does, any big changes that you're looking to make, or reflections, anything. We love to hear.
we do. Get in touch and let us know. And until the next
Excellent.
time.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, then be sure to like and subscribe and hit the bell notification so you get informed about future episodes. We'll see you next time.